Hey everybody, it's Friday. I'm Kevin Murcko, still the CEO of CoinMetro. One more week in the bag. Here with you today to do our weekly AMA. That's Ask Me Anything You Ask, I Tell. Hopefully, maybe. That's it. It's pretty easy. You ask me a question, I answer that question. Should be easy. We'll see how it works out. Wearing a bit of CoinMetro merch today. I don't know if I've worn this one already in the show. Maybe not. I have a clown mask behind me, if anybody knows. Right on. Cool. So hi, Rivik. Hi, Pedro, Rocco, Harold. How's everybody doing? So come on, guys, start throwing in the questions. It's been a pretty productive week, as most weeks are here. Lots of new people joined this week. I think we had 5 or 6 new people join this week. Most of those actually are in our new office. Well, not in the office yet, but in Mexico. And 1 or 2 here locally as well in Estonia. Here's a great question. Any new merch in the store? Not yet. Unfortunately, I'd love to get some new merch in the store, to be honest, but not the highest priority right now. The artist, though, that's actually doing the merch in the store, has done most of that merch in the store, is going to start making an NFT series. So you'll start seeing some CoinMetro merch NFTs. We also have another artist, which I'll tease a bit this week on, that next week I'll drop some more information. So we have an artist that's looking to work with us. We're looking to work with them on potentially a series of NFTs as well. We are going to get NFTs at some point. I believe NFTs are going to change the way finance works. Obviously not NFTs of squiggly lines for 500,000 ETH, but non-fungibles in general. But I do think that as we progress forward, especially into 2022, we're going to start to dip our toes. The first way we're going to do that is kind of presenting some artists to you guys that want to work with us. And we're going to kind of get them into the community, see if you guys like their art pieces, give them a bit of support to help them get some awareness on their art. And then based on that, we will see how quickly CoinMetro will delve into the actual NFT marketplace as a business. So the guy who does these bad boys is going to start making a few NFTs. Those will probably be available on some outside platform, whether that be OpenSea or whatever, Rarible, etc. But we will heavily support this artist inside of our own community. And then we have another artist outside of CoinMetro entirely, but that approached us to potentially help them with an NFT project. They've never done NFTs before. The guy's been taking photos for 1,000 years, some really cool ones actually. And he's going to get those onto an NFT as well as some actual dynamic content. I think it's going to be pretty cool. So something new for everybody. Have you heard of Hodge? Hodge sounds like a 7-foot tall farmer. His name, like in mid-country U.S. or something. No, I haven't heard of Hodge actually. Is that like Dodge? It's like a pig. I don't know. Hey, Mark, how can we get our voided tokens back? Okay, so this comes up every now and again. You can't at this point, basically. And I'll tell you why. So back last year, well, let's go back even further than that. We were trying to get people to KYC for about 3.5 years. And some people still didn't do it. We got to the point where we knew we were going to start going into more, going after additional licensing, and that our current licensing was going to get more scrutinized by the regulator. And holding assets for someone, meaning have a balance sitting on our balance sheet where we do not know who owns them, it becomes a risk, not only to us as a business, but to every single one of our clients, because if funds eventually are frozen or something happens to CoinMetro at a regulatory level, it can affect every single client. So we sent out information that people had until, I believe it was January of this year initially, to KYC to get their tokens. We then extended it and extended it again and extended it again. I think the last extension went all the way to August. At this point, we can't extend it anymore. I think there was ample time. There was ample amount of emails sent. At some point, we have to draw the line, because if we keep pushing the line down the road, we have to have conviction at some point. And that conviction started at the end of August, when that last deadline was breached. What I will say, if you can show that you never received those emails, and that in a very small percentage of users that happens, mainly because they emailed us at some point in 2017, 18, 19, 20, etc. And told us, look, I don't want to receive any more promotional emails from CoinMetro. And by mistake of our admin team, they were taken off the list for actual transactional emails as well. And so they didn't receive some of those warning emails. If that's the case, and we can definitely check on our side, so don't just tell us it is, unless it's the truth, then we will go through the system manually and pull back those tokens. When CoinMetro will be full of rich chads and chadettes, come on guys, would you consider a private wealth management department, or are you against the concept? Well, I guess I'd be kind of on the fence. So we want to be able to provide the same service and the same service level to all our clients. I don't care if you have, 1 XCM on your balance, or, you're super crypto Chad. I have 50,000 quant, 150,000 KDA, and 1,000 Bitcoin, super crypto guy or girl. I want to be able to provide the same service to everyone. I think that has to be the goal. Now, is that goal 100% achievable? Well, we can debate that one for quite some time, but has to be the goal. Why? Because why else would we be doing this? Why else does crypto exist? The whole idea, if you read that Bitcoin white paper, it's not that long. Go ahead and read it one day. A lot of the underpinnings in that white paper about access and about the fact that the reason why life is unfair, basically, when it comes to many aspects, is because, it's an old boys club, meaning that if you know someone who knows someone, you can get in. If you don't, you can't. So access is a big thing, and I think it's a big thing for CoinMetro as well. So having said that, I think we could provide portfolio services in the future for everyone. Obviously, if your portfolio is massive, that service is going to be slightly different. Doesn't mean it's better, it just means it's different, because you're going to manage, millions different than you're going to manage thousands, and you're going to manage hundreds of millions different than you're going to manage single-digit millions. That's just the way it works. Why? And that could be due to liquidity. It could be due to simply the fact that the risk levels of different clients are different. If you have 500 million, your risk level, you might think would go up, but in reality, it's probably going to go down. You're probably going to want to preserve wealth, though you may have a chunk of that wealth that you want to go high risk in. And if you have less wealth, you may be even more tolerant of risk, or vice versa. So I'm not against the concept. I would be against the concept of some type of super VIP service where it is entirely different from the services that we're giving to everybody else. Reddit question. One of two. Hi, Kevin. With the big influx of, and by the way, thanks, Charlie, for the Reddit, transposing the Reddit questions. With the big influx of new clients, I was wondering if you could give a quick overview of CoinMetro's philosophy on listing projects. Sure. They got to be awesome. Full stop. So we, this is probably something that it's dynamic. There are, however, some things that don't change. So when you invest in a company, and that doesn't necessarily mean we invest in all our listings, but in many we do, invest time for sure, and effort and energy, and we invest a part of our reputation. So there is an investment regardless if it's money or not, or monetary, has a monetary value or not. You invest in the team, right? You don't necessarily, all a company is a bunch of people doing something. And so we look pretty closely at the team, at their conviction, at their passion, whether they're actually good at what they're doing. Experience in what they're doing is important, but it doesn't necessarily have to be there. It depends. Obviously, if you're talking about, we're building a company to, completely reimagine neuroscience, and one guy's a used car salesman and the other girl used to pick apples in a farm, well, no. But if those same two people were trying to revolutionize logistics, well, I think anybody could do that, right? So if you're smart and you're passionate and you have conviction and you're analytical, you can probably tackle that problem. I don't know if you can revolutionize, neuroscience, but you could definitely tackle logistics issues. So team is one thing that's very important. We look at team. We also look at how they're actually, what the token does, what it's used for, what kind of utilities does it have, what is the potential that token is going to rise in value, even if the team has a hard time delivering on 100% of its promises. Because that's a good investment. So there's, I can consider a good investment a company that does something to better the planet, right? I'm not saying that's how I look at investments, but let's just assume that someone else in the room could say, well, I don't really give a shit about what they do in terms of helping the planet, but if it makes money, it's a good investment to me. Somebody else may say, well, if it makes money, it's fine. But if I don't believe in what the team's doing, or I believe that they're just in it to make money, it's not a good investment for me. So everyone has this different vision of what a good investment, a good listing might be. Obviously, for our own business to be able to promote ourselves, it's great when they go up in value. I think it's also great, though, when we can support great projects that are doing great things. So philosophy is really just looking at, and I didn't mention everything. There's also due diligence. We're obviously doing due diligence on the founders as well. And you will find things in founders' pasts. It happens. That doesn't stop us from listing. Depends on what it is. I guess if they murdered their entire family with an axe like 3 days ago, we would probably shy away. But anyway, the point is that it is dynamic. But one core thing that we're always going to do is look at the team. We're going to look at the business. We're going to look at how those two kind of mingle together, whether it looks like the team can actually achieve their business goals, what they've done in the past, what they're doing now. And then, of course, we look at some of the more economic factors of, how many tokens have they minted? Is it deflationary versus inflationary? What the tokenomics look like, et cetera. 2 of 2 from Reddit. What are the most important qualities? What are red flags? I think I explained some of those. Red flags are hard just to pinpoint because something could be a red flag at one particular company and not be so much of a concern at another. Let's call it an orange flag or a yellow flag. Whereas at other companies, it could be a red flag. Also, there's also varying degrees, right? If you have a very small company and there's a spending issue, like they're spending lots of money, they don't have a lot of runway, that's a red flag, most likely. If they're spending lots of money, but they have a ton, then that's not necessarily a red flag. It might be a yellow flag, might be an orange flag, really depends. So red flags, obviously, if we see that there is, fraud in someone's past, and it's verified. Look, you can look at a lot of founders. You can look at Steve Jobs, search Steve Jobs fraud, you'll find something. Search anybody, Bill Gates. Well, Bill Gates, you'd probably find just, maybe not fraud, but there'd be a lot of people hating on Bill Gates for sure. Point is that, looking at somebody's background, if there's things that we feel are egregious, that's definitely a red flag. If we see a business that absolutely looks like it will never actually come to fruition, and it's really just a money grab, meaning they're trying to get that token out there and increase its value using, little Bow Wow as an influencer or something. No, I'm not trying to throw shade on little Bow Wow. He's not even little anymore. What do you do when your rap name is little something and then you're like 40? How does that work? What are you, like middle-aged Bow Wow now? Anyway, point is that if we see a bunch of influencers pushing a product that really doesn't look like they're ever going to do anything, that's a red flag. So it'd be the same type of red flags. Look, a listing and an investment, pretty much the same thing. When we list something, we're investing in it. Again, that doesn't mean we're putting money into it, but that means we're investing in it. And that means part of our own company's, the way people look at us, our own kind of where we stand in the community is part of the listings we make. So we have to be careful what we list, just like you'd be careful where you invest your money. So very similar. Egypt made easy. Awesome. Hi, Kevin. Why sometimes the spread bid-ask widens, shrinks, and other times it widens? What's the market-making mechanics behind it? Thanks. Well, we don't market make in our own book, so I can't tell you exactly what their own necessarily mechanics are, but there is a very clear mechanic as to why spreads shrink and widen. And well, there's a few mechanics. One is liquidity. When there's ample liquidity available, and I would say less volatility in the price, spread is usually tight. Why? Well, you have to understand that spread is part of the money that they don't make it. It's the buffer to which the liquidity provider is able to provide you both a bid and an ask price. They have to be able to cover themselves. Meaning if you hit them on one side of that book, they have to be able to resell or repurchase an asset within that spread. So they need to price that spread accordingly. If the spread is too tight and they try to offset their risk, it can't, right? So when something is not volatile and highly liquid, tight spread. When something is less liquid and highly volatile, much wider spread. If it's liquid but also volatile, medium-sized spread, et cetera. So throughout the day, as market makers and liquidity providers are trying to balance their own risk, they're going to be changing where they place orders inside of the book. Now, when it comes to an organic book like XCM, like KDA, now there are definitely bots that market make, but these are client bots that probably don't use the same type of methodologies. Most of the time, client market making bots are on one side of the book. They're only buying or they're only selling. Very few times do you find a client bot that's going to sit on both sides of the book, which means that they're simply trying to front run, right? So if they're trying to buy, they're going to front run orders. So if the spread is this thick and they want to buy, they're going to come in or sell. They're going to come in as tight as they can above that last price, which will tighten spread because you're adding additional orders in between, let's say, the top of book orders that currently sit in the book. Hopefully that was made sense. If not, ask me again. When will KDA staking pools open again? Hey, Manuela. Well, that depends on KDA at this point. So it didn't open the day before yesterday or yesterday, the day before that. We opened our own pool to allow for some more people to come in because, again, access. One of the main things that CoinMetro wants to promote is access. We want more people to gain access to more financial services. That's why we're here. So access is a big point for us. So KDA themselves did not reopen bonding on their side. They won't reopen it until they have the ability to pay for bonding using their decentralized bridges. Their decentralized bridges, as far as we were told in our last AMA we did with them together with Stuart, their CEO, they plan to have the Ethereum bridge, I believe, if I remember correctly, live. I believe it was at the end of this year. And so that will allow people to go between wrapped KDA, which we will be launching here soon in the beginning of this month. Well, next week, I guess. Hopefully. So wrapped KDA on ETH and then back to actual KDA. And then that decentralized bridge is going to be able to operate those swaps independently. And that's where the money is made. That money is then used to support bonding, which will support our staking program. So when KDA bonding reopens, CoinMetro staking will reopen as well. Hey, someone asked you about Revolution Populi before. They are doing a crypto clearinghouse for institutions to enter crypto. Was this really needed? Can't institutions just use exchanges? It's a good question, and it's if we backpedal a couple years, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, let's say 2 years or more, we backpedal. Then yeah, it would make it just like ETFs. Yeah, but you notice that when ETFs came out, nobody really cared. But for years, everybody's like, oh, when an ETF comes out, that's it. That's when crypto's going mainstream. That's when, everybody's going to be wanting to get into Bitcoin. That would be true if that happened when it was hard to get into Bitcoin, but it's not hard anymore. You can literally, there's even banks now you can get into Bitcoin. I mean, Coinbase for the US and many other countries is the first place people go and pay exorbitant fees, but it's pretty easy. So it's buying Bitcoin at this point is not that difficult. Institutions do need some things that regular people don't. Yeah? They usually want to have some form of insurance on where they're buying from. If it's decentralized, it gets a little bit hairy because obviously there is decentralized insurance. But I would say that is not much less of a risk than the actual underlying risk is, because where is the risk with decentralized protocols? In the protocol, right? Because obviously if it's decentralized, no one can really walk away with the funds, but the protocol can break or be exploited. Well, so can the insurance protocol. So what's the difference? I guess the only difference is you would need both of them to break in the case, or both of them to be exploited in the case of the underlying being exploited, and then the insurance goes to pay out and it gets exploited and goes bankrupt and it can't pay either. Which, to be honest, is probably not the furthest stretch of the imagination for that to happen, to be honest. So anyway, there are things institutions need, want, and look for that retail platforms may not cater to. However, with the advent of ETFs, with the CME, etc., I would say there's not much need for this unless there is a very, very nuanced approach to how they're dealing, either as a clearinghouse for these institutions, or they're really undercutting any potential counterparty risk. Because when you're a clearinghouse, you sit in the middle, which means you add to the risk. It's counterparty risk. Boom. If someone's buying from an exchange, there's one counterparty that they have risk from. It's the exchange. If someone like a clearinghouse is buying from the exchange and someone buys from that clearinghouse, that's over here, sorry, that leads two counterparties. That's double the counterparty risk. Doesn't make sense to me. Again, I didn't look enough into that program or that business to really understand if there was something there that was unique, and there could be, but on the face of it, not really exciting to me. Given that KDA, hey Joseph, staking Philip so quickly, this would have been the perfect opportunity to encourage people to buy XCM by offering preferential access or rates to XCM holders. Why did you choose not to, given that XCM is supposed to be central? Hey Joseph, yep, there's a few reasons for this. One is we had a deadline to get this done, and we did not have enough time to build in any type of additional XCM tokenomics. Second to that, it's not the only time it's going to be open. And when it reopens, it will reopen to unlimited sums. And yes, we are planning. We did mention something about tokenomics changing this in the coming months. And one of those ways it's going to change, more than likely, is access. And access is going to be to staking or some of those passive income programs. So it's not that, look, this idea is not something no one has thought of, but just, having ideas is easy. I'll just throw this out there, right? Because everybody, if you've heard of some, they call people an idea man, right? You've heard that, right? Somebody that just has that great ideas. Yeah, well, you know how much idea men are worth? Somewhere between 0 and 1 cent. Ideas are worthless if there's no execution and no ability to execute. So we have great ideas. We have lots of them. This is a great idea. It's been floated around the office for a long time. There's a million other great ideas we have, but it's about taking those great ideas and actually being able to execute them into product. And that takes time, and it also needs to be prioritized. So this is absolutely something we will be doing, but to do it in short notice, just for 300 new people to come in, would have cost us more money to execute than it would have actually. We could have spent the money it would have cost us to do it and buy XCM as a market order, and probably rose in the price more than these guys coming in and buying it on single, limit orders or small market orders. So I get your point. It is definitely something we're going to do, Joseph. It's definitely something we've talked about, but we're not there yet, but we're getting there. Any news on XCM staking? Hey, Violet. Good point. Unfortunately, my days seem to get longer, but there's still only 24 hours in a day. And so I haven't gotten there yet. It is on my personal short list to revamp XCM staking. Just haven't been able to do it yet. I'm hoping with Edward, our COO, in town next week in one of our sit downs, this is going to be a topic, and we'll be able to finally get through it. Any new loyalty ideas for folks who have been here since the very early days? Hey, KB. Well, I think if you've been here since the early days and you've bought a couple euros, to be honest, worth the most of the things we've listed, you should be pretty happy as a CoinMetro client, to be honest. While not everything has, quote unquote, mooned, most of the things that we've listed first, or been one of the first to list, or the first centralized exchange to list, have done exponentially well. Obviously, the most recent is KDA. We had Parsec that did very well, still doing well, but below its highs, but did very well towards the beginning of the year. We've had Quant, which this year has just gone from 0 to 60 in a second. And I don't mean 60 euros because it's way above that. So I think as we build out more tokenomics, that's going to provide underlying value to the token. And if you're a token holder, then remaining a token holder and remaining loyal means that you will benefit from any additional price increase that token has over time. So I do think that in and of itself is a way that we show loyalty. We will undoubtedly have additional ways that we are going to show loyalty in the future. And as we build out the tokenomics, you will see more and more of those, whether that be prioritized access, which we've done in the past for our own bond raise, for example, whether that be discounts on certain product or product types, or increases in passive income on certain product types. Those will continue to come as we launch more and more of those services and those products over time. Reddit question. I would like to ask you for an opinion on Vespa. Where do you see this project? So I'll be honest, on Vespa, this was on a short list from our COO, Edward. I looked, my main goal looking at Vespa, because he was super passionate about it, had done all his own due diligence. I looked at it to see if it was a security. That was my main focal point. And I looked at their governance, because governance can easily, at least in the US, according to the Howey test, easily make you a security. If people can vote on very specific things that can affect the trajectory of the company, it can be labeled as a security. After looking at Vespa's governance, I deemed that we were in the clear, and so we moved forward. So the Vespa itself, I think it's interesting. I think, you know, they're in some ways it has a slight similarity to IQ protocol from Parsec. It's a different mechanic, but the mechanism behind it is similar, meaning that you create pools and you create pools for different assets, and then you can create income on those pools for different assets. Thus, assets that don't have passive income can create passive income pools using Vespa, which I think is cool. I've talked about this since 2017 on the first AMA, that eventually all companies will tokenize themselves. I still continue to say that. I still believe it's going to happen. When I say all, okay, it's not going to be 100%, but it's going to be close. And that's simply because tokenization allows you to do lots of things that you can't do otherwise. Whether that be from an accounting standpoint, or whether that simply be from your ability to kind of monetize pieces of your ecosystem you never could monetize before and do it easily. Now think about all these different tokens in circulation, and now they need platforms like Vespa, like IQ protocol, et cetera, to be able to create additional value for their token holders. So I like it. I can't tell you that I've done the deepest dive, especially when it comes to team, because it is a bit of a decentralized platform. I don't even know if there is a team that's visible, except for probably some GitHub usernames, like, I don't know, I'm an eggplant or something like that. I don't know their names. Point is that I didn't dig as deep as I usually would, because I based most of the decision on the fact that our COO did a ton of research, loves the project, and couldn't stop talking about it. And so I jumped in and just looked at some of the pieces that may hinder our ability to list, and we decided to move forward. Credo, I can talk a bit more about Credo for sure. Credo was I wanted to list Credo. I'll tell you why. So, you know, if you've been at CoinMetro long enough, you know that we use BitGo as one of our main custody providers. You'll probably also know that there's another company in crypto, quite big one, that does custody, called Fireblocks. They're getting more and more, I guess, famous around crypto, and they're offering more and more services. Lots of companies are connecting to them. You've probably also heard of a company called Ledger, who, you know, has hardware wallets. But in 2017, I had a call with Ledger, and I told them that they should look into providing a method by which someone could do non-custodial deposits. That's a really cool, funky sounding traditional finance name for, I get to hold on to my money, I can trade with you, and then we just settle later. So the whole not your keys, not your crypto becomes nonsense, because you can still trade at a centralized exchange without ever giving up your keys, or without ever giving up your crypto into an omnibus or some type of pooled wallet system. Ledger at the time, and I quote, told me that no one would ever use that type of service, which made me kind of pass out at my desk. I think I hit my forehead on that. Might be why it's bigger now than it was back in 2017. And then like fell on the floor and convulsed for like 5 minutes, and then laughed for probably half an hour. Point is that absolutely everyone would want to use a service like that. It's something that's existed in traditional finance for the big boys forever. They call them tripartite accounts. And that simply means there's 3 parties on an account, which means I have my bank account at bank, whatever. Bank We Suck. We'll call them Bank We Suck. So Bank We Suck, I have my account there. And so does the broker. And the bank also has obviously access to that account some way, shape, or form to pull fees, to debit, to credit, etc. So what happens? I go and I trade whatever on a broker. At the end of the day, they owe me 100 of whatever. They credited it. Done. At the end of the next day, I owe them 200. Bank takes it out. But I never have to actually move my money to their account at that bank or any other. That provides a lot of security, peace of mind, etc. Also takes away some of that counterparty risk. Now, Credo is working on something just like that. Fireblocks has something around the same lines, but absolutely not as interesting. And so Credo, when I talked to them over a year and a half ago, I was very happy to see what I saw. We more than likely will utilize their services at some point. The reason why we haven't yet is, first, they were too new. And, you know, putting all our client assets through a system that is relatively new as a small business is not something that I was ready to do, even though looking at their system looks quite sound. Couldn't really see anything in it that would provide any additional risk into what, let's say, BitGo. But BitGo had a reputation, and even though BitGo might have been more expensive, et cetera, they did have a reputation, and they've, quote unquote, never been hacked. Now, Credo has been growing, and they have their own token. So we went ahead and listed that token. I think that token is going to do very well. Fireblocks doesn't have a token. Neither does BitGo. Credo does, and they have systems and are building services that I've never seen elsewhere, that I absolutely know the market will use, especially at an institutional level, but also as long as the UX is easy enough to understand, and I've seen their UX, it's not that difficult, retail will use as well. And so I think there's a big future for Credo. I don't own any yet myself, but I will soon, probably in the next 30 days or so. I will grab myself a bag of Credo. Hi, Kevin. Would be great if you could discuss DNA staking with David anytime soon. Combine DNA staking with holding XCM only would be great to help XCM rise in price. Hey, Dennis. Yeah, I think as I said, I think at some point we will offer passive income on every single asset we service. That would include DNA. I don't know how beneficial to either. It's probably more beneficial to DNA right now than it would be to XCM, because I think our client base is bigger than theirs. That doesn't mean we wouldn't do it. We like to help our partners, so that's fine. I would say that our goal, and I just talked about things like Vespa and IQ protocol. Both of those systems could help create some type of passive income for DNA as well. And I think it's going to be one of those platforms or platforms like that we integrate in the future that's going to allow us to create passive income opportunities for the assets that don't have protocol-based staking. And that's going to include DNA, absolutely. Did you see Numerai? I did not. Is that a movie? Sounds like a bad movie. How do you feel about Dogcoin season? I think it shows a few things. Shows a lot about human nature. Kind of confirms my belief in what I've always thought about humans in general. I'm not going to say what that is. You should be able to figure that one out just by the question. It also shows you a bit about market mechanics, how markets function, and why we've never really seen that type of volatility in any other market. And it goes back to the word I've said like 15 times already on this show, access. Imagine pink sheets. If you don't know what a pink sheet is, it's a penny stock, right? Penny stocks don't trade on the Dow or the NASDAQ or the CAC or the FTSE or whatever. They don't trade on major global markets. They have secondary, smaller public markets where these type of public companies launch their shares. And they call them penny stocks because generally they're worth less than $1, €1, et cetera. Though you can have penny stocks that are worth multiples of that. Point is that to get in the US right now to trade a penny stock, you need to be an accredited investor. You may ask, well, that doesn't make any sense. And I'd agree with you. It doesn't make any sense because anybody can buy a penny stock. Why do I have to be worth X amount of money? Well, because the US regulatory system is ass backwards. It doesn't make any sense. Imagine if the globe had access via 1,000 different exchanges globally that they could trade penny stocks. Do you know what that would do to the penny stock market? It would explode. You'd have dog season all over the place. You'd have people buying the most randomized nonsense stocks. They would go to the moon. Those companies would become ultra capitalized and the world would just be a different place. I'm not saying it would generally be better because there definitely would be companies that would do that just as a money grab, just like there are assets that do it in crypto. But what we see in crypto is not necessarily different than what we see elsewhere. The only difference is access. Had the same amount of people had access and social media and all that other great stuff that now exists that wouldn't have existed that didn't exist 20, 30 years ago, penny stocks would look the same as crypto looks now. And if you ask me about regulation in penny stocks, well, it's actually interesting. Go have a read one day. Aside from the barrier to get in, penny stock regulation is not the same as general market regulation. In fact, it's weaker in many ways, even though in some instances it doesn't make much sense and the regulation applied is probably onerous or overboard. Point is that I think, more than likely, many countries are going to start to regulate crypto in the same way that they tried to regulate penny stock market. Anyway, dog season. So I don't own any dog coins. I never will buy any dog coins. I would never tell anyone to buy any dog coins. Yep, there's that one guy apparently who spent $5,000 and is now worth a fuck ton of money, like a trillion bazillion Korean won or something. But he's not, though. That's the thing. He's not, because he can't liquidate it all. Yeah, he might get 100 million, which, you know, nobody could scoff at, but he might not either. Because as soon as he starts selling and price starts tanking, guess what everybody else is going to do? They're going to sell, because they're majority retail clients, and retail clients get scared real fast, real fast. So, you know, at the end of the day, I wouldn't tell anyone to get involved. Yeah, if you want to gamble a little bit, you know, but understand that you are gambling 100%. Investing in anything is a bit of a gamble. But when you quote unquote invest in something you know has no value, literally no value, and there's no reason for it to have a value. And the only reason it's going up is because a whole bunch of other people that are FOMOing at the mouth because they saw on CNBC that some guy's worth $1 billion because he invested 16 cents a day and a half ago. It's bound to fall. What goes up must come down. And remember, in markets, it takes much more time for something to go up than it takes it to crash. The down is always much faster. When it happens, you won't realize it, and you know, you'll sneeze. You'll go to the bathroom to take a bathroom break. You'll come back, and your portfolio will go from amazing to hideously bad in a blink of an eye. I like the office atmosphere a lot more than the green screen. Don't go back to the green screen. Hey, big guy, I appreciate that. Yeah, I kind of like it as well. I got a bit better lighting here now, so I don't look like I'm sitting in a dungeon. So yeah, I kind of like it as well. I think it adds a bit of color, literally. Reddit question, another one. I would like to ask your. Oh, I already answered that one. Actually, this is a. I'd like to ask your opinion on VSP. Where do you see this project? The team looks fantastic. It's functioning products, more generous APIs. So I already gave my. I guess it does have a team, so that's great. But I already gave my opinion, so I'm not going to do that again. So it's down 92% from all-time highs. Yeah, I think part of that's probably due to ETH fees, mainly because people are having hard times getting in and out of their pools. Imagine if we were to make a large pool and allow people to move in and out on CoinMetro's platform with no gas fees. That would definitely help Vespa, and it's probably one thing that we're going to approach them with in the near future. And look, if being down 92%, doesn't sound great at all. But this is crypto, and almost every asset you are trading right now at some point has been down close to 92% or maybe even more. So the volatility doesn't scare me. I think it's more about everything else. The volatility may be a factor, but it's a small factor in comparison to everything else. But some people don't have access with their email that time. Do you think it's very fair for early investor you void their token? Again, Mark, if you have a, do I think it's fair? I think it's more than fair, the fact that it's been 4 years. If you can't do something in 4 years, how fair is it for us to wait for you when we pushed everybody and everybody else did it? That's also not fair. When you look at, you can't really look at a problem as, is it fair or not? Because this problem is multifaceted. It's not just one thing. There's 20 things. And while one may seem fair to you, there's somebody else on the other side that it's not fair. And there's going to be 19 other facets that are fair or unfair. So it's not just about what it looks like to, let's say, you directly. What I would say is, you say you didn't have access to your email. Show us, prove it. Prove to us you didn't have access to your email, that you couldn't answer those emails, that you could not get to them. Show us correspondence with Google or Yahoo or Hotmail that you lost your password. Show us something. If you can show, then we will do all the manual work it's now going to take to dig out the logs, find out what your balance was, and recredit it. We will do that. But you need to show us. It would be extremely unfair just because you ask, because we set a barrier for everybody else. And that is fair. That makes it fair, even if individual cases, again, can seem otherwise. Hey, man, nice to see you on the AMA. Appreciate it. Guess how many people you have made instantly rich so far? I don't know, but I think we're at least instantly rich. I don't know. I don't know if anybody's gotten instantly rich. But we've definitely, I would say there's 1,000 or so people at least that have made, maybe not, I don't know if life-changing money is the right word, because that amount is going to be different for everybody. 1 million might change a lot. 100,000 would change a lot of lives. 1 million would change other lives. 10 million might change other lives. 100 million might change others, right? So I can't really say life-changing money, but definitely I think people have done well. And that's great. That's what we're here for. I love to hear those stories. Which fiat currency do you think is going to hold best this period? USD. USD at some point, look, the imperial USD monarchy or whatever is going to fail at some point. Historically, fiat empires have lasted about 100 years. The dollar has already lasted more than that. It's probably going to last a bit more. Why? Well, first of all, we're talking about modern economies. It's a bit different than economies, 200 years ago or whatever. The dollar is resilient. The dollar is resilient because it's the most accepted currency globally. And even though there's always these threats or transactions that are done, between Russia and China, we're going to buy oil using, rubles. Have at it. Nobody really cares. There's so many assets, commodities, and otherwise that fuel this planet that are continually priced in dollars. The US dollar is one of the only currencies you can travel almost anywhere in the world and pay with US dollars. Almost anywhere. Try to do that with, euros. Try to go to South America with a euro bill. Done. Try to go to Canada with a euro bill. Try to go to Australia with a euro bill. Try to go to Africa. Not accepted. You can go to Exchange House, sure, but no business is going to accept it. US dollars are different. In many, 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 many places around the world, they are accepted. Why? Because they're more liquid. Just the same reason why you can spend Bitcoin at lots of places, but you can't spend XCM at lots of places. Why? Because XCM isn't as liquid. So USD, absolutely. I mean, that doesn't mean that it may lose traction. You're going to see the USD and euro and pound. There's always fluctuations. USD, however, has maintained its power for a long time. And while it will fail at some point, this is not the time for it to fail. Considering that we're in a macroeconomic crisis because of COVID that really hasn't reared its head yet. And people, I think, are complacent and don't realize what's going to happen. But when it does happen, it's going to happen everywhere. So it's going to set everybody on an equal playing field again. And the dollar, again, is still the most liquid currency. So. Hi, Kevin. Congrats on the KDA bonding. I thought it went really well after the initial website hiccup. Do you feel KDA has got a bit too big and taken focus off smaller coins on CoinMetro? No. I mean, if it takes focus off the smaller coins on CoinMetro, so be it for a small amount of time. I think that's fine. That's how markets generally work. I don't think it's grown quickly, yes, but I would say it's still undervalued. And in fact, now that it's broken into the top 100, it will be eyed by other large exchanges to be listed. When that happens, that's only going to provide more liquidity and more price action, initially to the downside when it gets more liquid, but then to the upside and quite ferociously, I think. I don't think we've seen the last of it. Is VSP the next CoinMetro gem? Very well could be. I think Credo's on that list as well. What's your take on VXV tokens? Well, we listed VXV because, we looked at VXV, we looked at the founders, we looked at what they're doing, what they studied, what their background is, are they passionate, do they have a drive, do they have a plan, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't own VXV myself, but I know a lot of people who do. I didn't buy it for any real reason other than the fact that I would have gotten in right at the beginning, but I wasn't cash liquid to be able to do it. By the time that I was on platform, it was out of the price scope that I was willing to pay before I saw more price action. I think right now, obviously, it's come off of highs. It's been maintaining price relatively well, and that's in a pretty illiquid market, which is hard to do. So that's good. That means there is support. It really depends now, I think, on what comes next for VXV, what comes next for Vector Space, what comes next in terms of product offering and adoption of their product and services. I think that's the next major milestone for them. Hola, Senor Kevin. Well, hello, Bjorn. Nice to see you. How will 2021 end for CoinMetro? It'll probably end on the 31st of December, like for everybody else, I hope. I think it's going to end well. We constantly are becoming a better company. So, we've had mistakes. Yep, we've tripped over ourselves a few too many times, maybe. Fallen on our face a few times. I've lost a little bit more hair, if you haven't noticed. But at the end of the day, we learn from our mistakes. Sometimes it takes more than once. We get there. And we are becoming a better company. We're becoming a better company. We're bringing on more and more good people. We're expanding. I think 2021 is going to end very well for CoinMetro, both when you talk about XCM, both when you talk about the company. In 2022 is going to be fantastic. Many people complained about KDA staking not being exclusive, early access for resident CoinMetroids. What's your opinion? Will XCM tiers ever boost staking APY? Hey, big guy. So I think I made a point on this already. CoinMetro has to be about access. If we limit everything we do to only the people that have supported us from the beginning, it's not really kind of going in line with our modus operandi. We want you guys to feel welcomed. We want you to feel all the appreciation we have for you. And I think we do lots of things to do that. This is one of them, right? Here every week, answering questions, trying to be as transparent as possible. I don't see anybody else doing that. And I think that's one way we show you guys that we care. Right? I do this every week. I really like to do it, to be honest. It's not a chore for me. I really do like to be here, but I do this because I appreciate all of you. And if I didn't, I wouldn't be here. So I don't think it should have been exclusive. I think doing, and on the other side of the token, pun intended, there were people calling that we should have done more outward advertisement. I also think that might have not been the right idea either. Why? Because we would have potentially upset more people because there was only a certain amount that we could let in. The goal here was to get more people access, and we did, and it happened, and it went fast, and it was amazing, I think. XCM tiers, yes, tier system and/or some other type of buy-in, or you have to stake XCM to stake another token. So, you know, it doesn't have to be 10,000, it can be 25,000, et cetera. But there will be some, we will play around with some mechanism by which XCM tokenomics bleeds into APY and access to staking programs. When will CoinMetro blog integrate timestamps on their articles published? That's a good one. I don't know. I guess that should be pretty easy to do. So I would post that in the Telegram, and let's see how fast we can get it done. Hey, not sure if this was asked, but any idea when Flux rewards will be distributed? I don't know. I know that I'm going to say, I keep thinking screenshot in my head. Is that ridiculous? Snapshot. The snapshot was taken on October 15th. Am I wrong? But I don't think they've been distributed yet, even to us, as far as I know. I think that distribution is going to happen and then paid out sometime in January. Or was it December or January, as far as I remember? I don't remember the exact date, so I can't give you an exact one, but I don't think they've been paid out yet. What percentage of CoinMetro's treasury is kept in crypto, and what cryptos does CM hold as investment for the business? What percentage of CoinMetro's treasury? 40% maybe. Now, some of that is transitional. Like it's kind of in a transitional phase, so it doesn't sit there all the time, but and it can move. Roughly, I would say 40%. Remember that when we're paid commissions, whether that be margin or whether that be on our exchange, of course, we do convert a lot of that into, on the exchange side, into XCM, but we're paid in the underlying asset. So if you're trading Bitcoin, we're paid in Bitcoin. If you're trading ETH, we're paid in ETH. If you're trading BXV, we're paid in BXV, et cetera. So we hold a little bit of almost every asset that's traded on the platform. There's a concentration on assets that are traded more on the platform. We do not make investment decisions for Treasury. So we are not investing Treasury. We are simply holding Treasury in the assets that we're remunerated in. Hi, Kevin. Would CM ever create and manage Sony ETF, something like Vanguard for crypto instead of stocks? We do have this ETCF idea that was in our white paper. That's electronically traded crypto fund. So I guess the answer to that is pending licensing. Yes. Wouldn't be a publicly traded because it would only be offered on CoinMetro. So it'd be a bit different. But yes, we are thinking of baskets. And that's where VXV comes in as well to help manage some of those baskets. Any plans on making a team info page on the website? We had one at one point back in the day, and then we removed it for this new website. I think it will come back, absolutely. In regards to your listing philosophy, what's your opinion on Anon teams and DeFi? I don't really like it. I don't like it for several reasons. I think if someone has the ability to create something, and there is no liability back to them, and it's a finance product, that's a dangerous scenario. That is a dangerous scenario. That's why a lot of these things aren't getting audited. That's why a lot of these things end up getting exploited. because when that happens, who cares? If you're the one who created it, just create a new Anon name and create another one. I think I don't like that aspect of DeFi. And I think that's probably going to change over time. It's a scary scenario when no one can be held culpable, especially when it comes to other people's money. What are your thoughts on listings, investing in gaming projects? Seems to be a huge trend. I think, gaming is a big thing. It will continue to be a big thing. It's only going to become bigger. I haven't myself personally invested in any gaming projects as far as I know up to this point. Listings, definitely. I wouldn't be against it at all. I think there's one actually on the short list at least that's tied into gaming and entertainment. I don't think it's a huge trend right now. I think it's just a huge trend in general. I mean, gaming has been around since the Commodore 64. Anybody had a Commodore 64? The graphics were amazing. Then Atari came out and blew that away. Remember, Atari blew it away. Pong blew Commodore 64 out of the water. Imagine that. Pole position. Jesus Christ. It was like a circle sitting in a triangle. Anyway, point is that gaming has been a trend for a long time. I think it's proven that it's no longer a trend. It is just a massive industry. And, COVID and things like that obviously have progressed gaming much quicker. A catalyst. It was a catalyst that moved gaming probably faster than it would have moved otherwise because, well, everybody's sitting at home. They watch the entire Netflix library, Prime Video, done. Now what do you do? Well, I guess you play video games, right? I mean, what else would you do at home in your underwear when you're eating Lay's potato chips? Well, I guess there's a few other things you might be doing, but we can't mention them here because there might be children watching. So yeah, gaming projects. I'm okay. I think we will absolutely be listing, and there will be more and more of these that become tokenized. Absolutely. No, that's not Gilbert. And he actually points to someone who can figure out who that is. It's not Gilbert, though. Good day, sir. Good day, Jet Fuel. Nice to see you. Is it time to also start listing some bread and butter volume bringing tokens rather than just gems? Hey, Pedro. Well, we've talked about this many times. So we were asked to list things that we listed that have volume elsewhere. I'll give you an example. Uniswap. Oh, please list Uniswap. Why don't you guys list DeFi platform tokens? Please just Uniswap. Oh my God, they're doing so much volume. We listed it. You know how much volume we have? Pretty much nothing. You know why that is? Because there's too many other places to trade it. We are in a unique place where we have the majors, which is what the vast majority of crypto trade, regardless, newbies and otherwise, majors, covered, done. Then you have all these other assets that, yep, people do trade on other platforms, quite extensive. But they're available on so many platforms that we need to scream so loud inside of that community to make them even look at us. And, oh my God, we have fiat on-ramps. Oh, by the way, we also have this. We have 24/7 support. We have this, we have that. And even then, we're not big enough yet, maybe, for them to listen. But when we list things that aren't anywhere else, we've proven now that that's a guaranteed winning strategy. Yes, it takes time, but it's a winning strategy. So what I would say is as we grow, we will be listing more mainstream tokens for sure, because we will have more and more people looking for those tokens, and thus we can generate the volumes. With our current client base, we will not. We've proven that listing things just because they have high volumes on other exchanges does not translate to volumes here yet. Did you see many signups from the Ubuntu soccer game advertisement? Also interested to know the rationale behind that kind of advertising. Hey, Jet Fuel. So I have no idea. I can't tell you. To be honest, that's going to be really. It's one of those type of advertising commitments that is almost impossible to track. Yeah, we could have put a QR code on there and then watched a bunch of goofy drunk people try to scan a QR code as it pops up on the screen for 12 seconds. But we didn't do that. So. Because it wouldn't have been it wouldn't have worked anyway. The point is that we did see an increase in traffic. We absolutely saw that during the game and up to 24 hours after, we saw about 70 to 80% more signups than we had seen in previous days leading up to that game. Now that could be a coincidence, but so I do think there is some spillover. What's the rationale? Rationale is, well, everybody else is doing it, and if everybody jumped up a bridge, so would I. By the way, that question that your mother probably asked you when you were 5, I guarantee you If everyone jumped off a bridge, you would fucking jump off that bridge because there's probably like an alien ship coming about to crash into the fucking bridge, right? So anytime that you hear an adult say that to a child, just smirk to yourself because obviously you would. I mean, of course you would. Just like if everybody's running down the street, you don't go and go, huh? You start running down the street because there's probably somebody chasing. There's probably some gorilla Godzilla monster or something running down the street. Anyway, point is that it's not just because everybody does it. It's brand awareness. We are getting to the point where we're going to start to do much more targeted advertising. We have this media agency, etc. We also need to do brand awareness advertising and getting us on the screen of a couple million people so they can see the name CoinMetro. Then they see it again. Then they see it again. It usually takes 7 touch points to get somebody to become a client. That means they'll see it on the game. They may see it in a Google ad. They may then see it as on another ad, another place, some type of ad placement. They may see it on Facebook. Then they end up actually, committing and coming to the website. So it's about brand awareness. At what age did you decide to become vegan and why? I've told this story a lot of times, but I'll try to tell it quicker. So, what age? Let me think. 36. And why? So I didn't decide. My wife did. I came home from a business trip. She was sitting watching the TV, and it was about 3 a.m. And I walked in. I saw her face because you could see like the television light on her face because it was dark in the house, and she was crying. And I looked at her face, and then I looked at the TV, and there was this woman throwing baby chickens into a blender. And I kind of laughed. I probably shouldn't have laughed, in hindsight, but it was 3 a.m., man. I was tired, and somebody was throwing chickens into a blender. What do you do in that situation? Me? I laughed. So I laughed. And she said, you, she didn't say us. She said, you need to stop eating meat. And I thought she was just, playing around. So I just dug in deeper, and I was like, well, I might as well stop eating sugar, not drink any more soda, and just completely cut out every type of dairy product as well. I mean, while we're at it. And she said, good idea. And then I went to sleep. And I woke up the next day, and I was vegan. That was about 9 years ago, 8, 9 years ago. Funny story is that she was vegan for about a week. So I guess I won that battle or lost. I don't know. Depends how you look at it. What are your thoughts on Solana? Not a fan. Way too centralized. I don't really see a huge future for Solana other than localized projects, localized industries. Well, they could be quite big, but they're going to be very specific type of project. I don't see a big future in smart contracts and things like that, and similar features that are in a very centralized ecosystem. At least for the wider public. Definitely for industries like could even be banking and other industries that need to have control. Okay, but I'm not a big fan of Salon. Hey Kevin, few words on the additional XCM tokenomics and when. I did give a few words already. I think it's enough for now. Hey there, recommended CM to my sister and my brother-in-law, and they were both rejected. The support said they couldn't provide them service and couldn't explain either. Can you help explain? Hey, Tristan. Well, I just by the message, no, I can't. You can DM me on Telegram at Kevin Murcko, and I can take a look. My guess is going to be that either they made a mistake and uploaded somebody's ID into somebody else's account, or they were present in their selfies. When we see more than one person in a selfie, it's a rejection. Why? Because we've seen many frauds in the past where that happens, and it's a telltale sign. That doesn't mean everyone that does that is a fraud. That's for sure. But there's massive amount. You'd be surprised at the amount of fraud that happens through platforms like ours. And so we need to be ultra careful. But if you DM me, I can take a look. And if it's solvable, we can solve it. By the way, are you guys looking for full-time developers exclusively or also accepting part-time? Both. If you can develop something, we want to hear from you. You can go to apply.workable.com/CoinMetro and apply there, or you can just send a CV to jobs@coinmetro.com. Who is the face behind you? That's the $1 million question. I know who it is, but you guys got to figure that one out. You got to figure that one out. Hi, Kevin. Is XCM staking still sustainable for CM? And is there if so, are there API changes on the table? We are paying at a Treasury for XCM staking. Our goal is to make it a profitable business early next year. I would expect, yes, changes in the APY, though my goal is to get them higher, not lower. Good afternoon. Wow, what a week. Hi, CM boys and girls. Amazing week. Hey, Jack. Nice to see you. We got about 30 seconds here. Great surprise in the CoinMetro banners in the Verona versus Juventus game. Is this just a probe? Do you get some signups from Italy? We did get signups, not just from Italy. And no, there will be more of the same as we test out this advertising channel. Why isn't KDA on the crypto Twitter sentiment meter? Good question. We just have to add it in there. I guess we will. So put that in the Telegram as well, and we'll get it done. There are definitely more questions. I'm sorry I can't get to them. It's been an hour. I have to prepare for our weekly TGIF meeting. Thank God it's Friday. So I'm going to leave you guys here. Thanks a lot for coming by. It is the weekend. You know what that means. Spend time with friends and family. If you can't do it physically, do it virtually. And again, while you're sitting in that Zoom meeting with half your family watching everybody eat, make sure you tell all of them that the best way to protect themselves against Corona is to buy XCM. And I'm not a doctor, but that is absolutely the truth. 100%. Okay, so have a great weekend. Tag me in Telegram if you have a question that I couldn't answer here, or you just feel like tagging me because you're lonely and it's a Saturday evening and you just want a bald guy to talk to. And that's at Kevin Murcko. You can also tweet me at Kevin Murcko on Twitter. There we go. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for being here. Cheers.